you're having a good day. About the time of year, a lot of my tropical trees, all my trees are tropical basically, but they're getting a huge growth spurt now. And with these rain trees, they definitely hit a little spot in the winter where they don't really grow much at all. But I would like each one of them to kind of have a prune now so that they'll get, you know, another little growth spurt, or I say continue this growth spurt for the next, say, 6-7 weeks. I think we got another 6-7 weeks of our growing season here, and just kind of recover from that, and then have the, you know, have some canopy cover, if you will, for the winter. And this one I've let get out of hand the most. And so I'm just going to start with this guy. I'm going to get a little wire on this one too. The other ones today I'm just going to trim up a little bit. I noticed about, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago, like I said, this one I have been leaving alone the longest, that it was leaning that way quite a bit. And I actually took and just, you know, kind of spun it. I do have it sitting where it kind of gets a lot of shade on one side of the tree at one point. I spun it around and somehow or another it started leaning even worse. I don't know if it's just from weight in the pot or why that happened, but you can see it's definitely pretty top heavy even as I move it. You see it kind of teetering a little bit and everything. Definitely time for at least the prune. But I've also had, I'm going to show you on one of the last trees that I'm going to prune, probably the lightest today, but I'm going to show you why I'm going to do some things a little bit differently on this tree right now, just simply because I don't want all my rain trees to start looking the same. I mean, I do have the one cascade and one flat top. But then, like, you know, the last tree, I'll go ahead and explain it now. The last tree I'm going to bring in has 2 very thick branches on the bottom, and then I'm trying to kind of make an apex out of it. And for some reason, because of their growth habit, it does seem as if it would be best to leave a couple thick branches at the bottom, try to make it nice and thick. It does really get extremely apical, as you can tell. This one actually, this is maybe one of the strongest growing side branches I've ever seen, and this one also is growing super straight, in that usually, like you guys might be able to see on this one here, usually they kind of go from node to node and they get like a little crook in them from side to side. That one just kind of shot out there straight. This has a main branch coming off of it with a skinny shoot off this side, a little bit of a thicker off this side. I'm going to use some directional pruning, try to get this one to grow away from this one, but then also use wire just to kind of separate them too. And we'll just see how it goes here. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I try to show this almost every time I do one of these trees. When I say directional pruning, you have a node going that way and a node going that way. If I was to cut this guy off here, the hopes is that it would go that way. Directional pruning works on almost every type of tree, but on the rain trees it's even a little more obvious. Works good 90% of the time. Sometimes it'll get it just a strange shoot coming out where you really didn't want it, but you just got to deal with that as it happens. I kind of hit that guy for taper a little bit more, and I'm going to go ahead and go 2 more nodes back on that one and leave the branch still going that way. This one hasn't got any good secondary branches coming off of it yet, so I'm just going to go for about the same size. If I get some wire on that and hold that down, try to go. This one is actually the next branch, and I definitely like it to be a little bit shorter than the first branch, as it's a little bit thinner than the next one up too. I'm going to go back fairly considerably on this. And then just to show you, usually a rain tree, as it kind of goes through all those nodes, it kind of goes crooked. This thing just shot straight out there like that. Took most of it off. You know, trying to wire these guys down, obviously make them quite a bit shorter to make them the next branches up, or chop it. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to leave 1 or 2 flexible ones and just try to get some really dramatic movement in there. I'm actually trying to decide. There's a fork right here that goes into 4 more branches. Try to do it to where I can get the most dramatic movement. And I think that's the way to do that there. Now I'm trying to decide if I'm going to wire that one down as a branch and try to prune it, and then just like get some wicked movement out of this side, or maybe even just cut it down to the 1 and get more movement out of that one. And I think that's what I'm going to do, so I'm going to take off the thicker one. And then I don't really want it, I want it as a longer apex with plenty of movement, but I don't want it to be a complete sacrifice. I would like to get a lot of back butting, so I'm going to go ahead and cut off just a handful of nodes off the top there, make sure that it sends plenty of, cut the end of the growing tips off. Those are the auxins. Send plenty of signals back to back bud. This one too, this one's coming straight up, so I'm just gonna nip that one off. All right, give you guys a little bit of a closer look there before I go putting any wire on it. That's that back branch I was talking about. It's amazing how once you kind of they're so flexible when they're on there so long, and then when you prune them off, you realize just how lignified they are. I actually think they start lignifying. Sometimes I think it might be in my head. I feel like they lignify as soon as you prune them. All right, and there we go. Got plenty of movement in the top. Every now and again, somebody will ask me what size wire I use. I actually used 3mm on the bigger branches and the apex, and the I guess it'd kind of be the back branch there on that other side. And then I had this little smaller branch here and this secondary branch. I used 2.5 on there. I'll have to keep a pretty good eye on it over the winter. I mean, this thing, the trunk is still not really even bigger than, say, my pointer finger. So still got plenty to grow and to do if I accidentally let them cut in a little bit over the winter. But I would like to keep it a nice looking tree as it grows up here. I do picture this being the front. Tried to put this little turn in there, leaning this way a little bit. Could even, because I think I might have enough trees with kind of the bigger branches on the bottom. Maybe over time, if I develop a pretty neat looking apex up there and this blank spot in the trunk kind of becomes the feature or the turn, if you will, maybe even take all these as cutting and then just kind of have, the little twisty feature towards the apex. But I mean, sometimes you got to go with what life gives you. Right now, I'm just praying there's no hurricanes this year and everything can develop through the winter like they're supposed to instead of recover all winter. All right, and then I've got this guy here. That last tree I had in here actually was separated from this stump. It was looking like it was like almost like a group planting where it was coming out of here. This, if you go back through the channel, I have a lot of history on this one. This was actually an air layer that I had started, and I went to kind of peek at it. I didn't see any roots, and so I lopped it off. But something in my intuition said there was like a little bit of life in there still. And I threw it in some potting soil, and sure enough, it sprouted. Maybe when I'm done pruning it, I can give you a little bit of a closer look up. You can see where the whole crown of it actually all died back. It was a nice little crown I was trying to air layer off, but that whole crown died back. I had a little piece of deadwood sticking out for a little while. I wound up cutting all that off. I mean, now there is a deadwood stub of about like that. I don't think it's going to be too much longer. The tree is going to envelop the whole thing anyway. It's growing so quickly. Pretty good prune up here, light prune over on this side. I do think the sacrifice branch is kind of stealing a little bit of the energy from this side. Not, using it, not necessarily stealing it. Also considering maybe doing something drastic with this one here, but I'm just going to wait. There's a branch here. This was actually starting to grow like that to where it was kind of interfering with the tree. I couldn't really see, and plus it was actually in there. So it's hard to explain. I do have this I actually have it tied down like that where I have it out there, and then the pot is secured to, what I have it sitting on. And actually in the last, we had that Hurricane Idalia. This got flipped upside down, and then because this was tied into place, this kind of hung on there for a little bit. You can actually see where in the wind, this piece actually got burned all the way down. And then again, once I say all the way down, it burned the tip off. And then because of that, I'll show you in a minute, you can actually see where this is now getting some back budding on the sacrifice branch itself. So I do want to get this hard prune in, let it kind of rebuild a little bit of a canopy to kind of just look okay over the winter, but then also just allow this to really go. I want the trunk to thicken up as much as I can. This is coming right out of the base of the trunk. It should be a scar that I can easily kind of hide or at least disguise, or maybe even make it almost a feature of the tree. But there's a look at the other side of it. And then that's the side there that I chopped that tree that was just in here. I do have right now, most of you may notice that I have like regular potting soil in there. Usually I use a bonsai substrate, and that's what's under it. But when it blew up out of there, all the substrate came off the top. It really wasn't quite ready for a repot, but there was a lot of exposed roots. And then I just decided, because of the way the air and this porous soil works, I want to just hold some moisture in there, especially we're heading into winter, so I'm not concerned about rot or anything like that. So I just put some potting soil on top. All three of these branches are coming from the same chop kind of area that I did last time, which is about this high. Generally speaking, I like to come up a couple nodes from the last time I chopped it. This one actually has a secondary branch somehow popping that way, so I'm going to go ahead and just count on that taking over there. And take this one off around the same height. This one too, but leaving a node going that way, so maybe it won't interfere with its little brothers there. This is obviously, working really hard here to become the apex. Looks like I chopped everything right around in this area here last time. Now I'm kind of worried mostly about some of these really longer, not really worried about it, but wondering why it's getting such long shoots out of there. I'm going to take that shoot all the way off. Don't really want, I know even having that sacrifice branch on there will disturb the balance of the tree in general, but I don't want it to become horribly out of balance. That barely grew at all since the last time. This whole side is barely growing. Here, this way. This one here, kind of leaving that as another secondary sacrifice. When I lop this guy off, I may leave this one on for another few months after that. Definitely can't have that one. And I decided to leave it alone pretty much like that for now. You can look at it kind of from a distance from that side. And then that side, I don't really know what the front might be. That's side that you can kind of like not see the bigger sacrifice much on. See if I can't show you some of this dead area here. And also, part of the reason I was thinking about cutting off this branch here, but I feel like not only am I probably going to go over, multiple angle changes when I pot it, but also once this sacrifice branch is gone, I'm thinking that it might look funny without that there too. And so I'm just going to leave it on there for now. I can always take it off later. I can't put it back on. I don't know if when I was talking about the ends being burnt here like it was, if you could really see that. See if you guys can see that a little bit better. That and that little piece right there, I do have it tied in, but I have it tied in through the trunk instead of through the root ball. But that piece and that piece are actually the dead pieces where the crown used to be. And then, like I said, once I stuck it in that potting soil, it started getting sprouts off the side. And I just pretty much let it go for now. Won't be a traditional kind of quote-unquote pretty-looking trunk, but it'll definitely be interesting. And then this is also what I was talking about, how the sacrifice branch itself is getting some back budding along it. The mother tree that I got this from, I actually turned into a cascade. I had a sacrifice branch on that one, and it just got so much secondary growth, and it kind of really got some movement and everything. That's actually why I turned it into a cascade. It turned out to be more interesting than the tree. All right, and then there's this guy here. This is a cutting off of like the original mother tree that I had. And actually, I noticed that it struck in May of 2020. So what is it, a little over 3 years old? I've had some wire on it. I'm going to try to, I think right now I'm going to try to prune it pretty hard. And I'm going to go ahead and see if I don't have the patience to do an exclusively clip and grow flat top, just simply because I'm trying to turn it into a flat top just from the, I was trying to take some of these, kind of wire them out, make it a nice wide flat top. I think I'm gonna, maybe I had my hopes set for a little bit too wide. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna prune it like pretty hard here. It was actually seeming almost as if it was trying to go kind of almost against my will, in that it was trying to grow in more than out for the flat top. And so some of these I might even cut down a little bit below the last point that I hard pruned them at. Like this one here had a little sprout going that way. Actually, I hard pruned it purposely to try to keep it going out that way, and just nothing really happened there. So I'll just go ahead and take that part, the whole part off there. This one here too, this one has piece of the trunk going this way, and then it just got this shot kind of coming, this shoot going way up that way. So I'm just going to take that whole thing out. Pruning that other one even just today. My fingers still hurt from catching my fingers on the thorns. When I originally got the one tree, I was planning on doing nothing but clip and grow with the trees with thorns. Has been, and one thing that some people forget on the hobby, sometimes they take everything so seriously. I will say it has been fun trying to use wire on some of them and notice how flexible the branches are, all that kind of stuff. It is also a pain with the thorns. I know I can take them off, I don't really want to. Funny, this side seems like the directional pruning was doing like I wanted to do, but I also feel like it's getting out of balance. That other side just a little bit, cut that back a little harder than I really would have liked to, but alright, and then as I got a little bit of a closer look, I think I also just kind of figured out that on this side here, that could come down some more, hopefully come this way. And there was still a growing tip on that one. I don't, again, hate to get them out of balance. And then this, there's another fresh tip there. I want to just cut that tip off. I really don't want it to, and I think that'll work. That's pretty much what I've been thinking is the front. Alright, you know, these really are some cool looking trees. I like this one. This cutting was taken the same time as that last one, that May of 2020 or whatever. This was quite a bit thicker. And so I was pruning it a bunch on top. I left a couple little branches down here. Originally I was thinking they were going to be sacrifices. Then I just started realizing that, you know, perhaps maybe I could make, you know, big branch, you know, one side. I mean, for you right now, that would be the right side, left side. And then kind of keep the crown like I was doing with the pruning up there, which is pretty much what I've stuck with. Last time I did anything, I had wire on this side, but none over there. It was biting in really well over here. I took it off and I put it back over here. I actually left it on there. I'm going to leave it on. It still might be biting just a little bit on the underside of that trunk right there, but it's in a spot where you wouldn't really be able to see it all that well. Before I go pruning it, I guess I could show you the other side. Still feel like that other side is the front, but we'll see how things go. I'll go ahead and start on this side since it's right in front of me here. I was expecting to get a lot more crown back budding. But I guess it's okay. I mean, I'm kind of surprised at some of these shoots coming out of the lower branches and only 2 up here. I would expect more up here. But I still think it's turning out really well. This one, I think I'm going to take that up. There's a bigger, thicker branch coming up that way. I think I'm going to go ahead and take that whole skinny shoot out. Cut that one down just a little bit. And then with some of those shoots coming out like that, of course that is rising, which it wants to, you know, grow apically. Kind of surprised there really hasn't been much going on down here. It's all healthy. You know, first thing in the morning, it looks really cool on the one side of the tree there and everything. And let's get a closer look here. Alright, hard to get too much closer without kind of not getting the ends in the pictures here and everything, but a little bit of a closer look. Pretty sure I'll be repotting this early next spring. This one's been in the pot for a little while.